Alright, buckle up, because we're heading to the most extreme, least understood corner of the planet, Antarctica's Southern Ocean. Forget everything you thought you knew about fishing, because out here, it's not just about catching fish, it's about a hidden, massive industry targeting one of the planet's most vital creatures. We're talking krill. And to understand it, we're joining the colossal factory trawler, the Ocean Empire, with its veteran commander, Captain Henrik Solberg. He's been navigating these treacherous, icy waters for years, chasing these tiny crustaceans that underpin an entire ecosystem. This isn't just fishing, it's an intricate dance between technology, nature, and global demand. Ready to dive deep? Our guide into this frozen world is Captain Henrik Solberg. He's the seasoned veteran at the helm of the Ocean Empire, a name that perfectly suits this vessel's sheer dominance in its operational domain. Reports indicate these factory trawlers are essentially floating processing plants, designed for maximum efficiency in some of the most unforgiving waters on Earth. Captain Solberg, with decades of experience, represents the human face of this high-stakes, high-tech operation. His perspective, as we'll see, offers a direct window into the daily realities of harvesting krill in a region many consider pristine. It's a stark contrast to the tranquil images of Antarctica we often see. So, what exactly is krill? We're talking about Antarctic krill, specifically Euphausia superba. These are small crustaceans, just a few centimeters long, but their significance is anything but tiny. Scientists estimate their total biomass in the Southern Ocean could be a staggering 300 to 500 million tons. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire human population's weight, multiplied by dozens. These tiny titans form enormous swarms, sometimes stretching for miles, dense enough to be seen from space, according to some reports. They're a fundamental component of this unique polar ecosystem. Why are these creatures so important? Because krill are what's known as a keystone species. Think of them as the heart of the Antarctic food web. Researchers consistently point to krill as the primary food source for almost every iconic Antarctic animal you can imagine. We're talking massive baleen whales, like blue and humpback whales, seals, penguins, and countless seabirds and fish. If krill populations falter, the entire ecosystem could collapse. That's the delicate balance at play here, and it's why an industry targeting them generates so much scientific and environmental scrutiny. It's a huge responsibility. Our journey aboard the Ocean Empire takes us deep into the Southern Ocean, a place renowned for its brutal conditions. Captain Solberg routinely navigates through massive ice floes and contends with some of the planet's fiercest storms. This isn't your average fishing trip, it's an expedition into one of the most remote and hostile environments on Earth. The remoteness itself adds layers of complexity, requiring vessels like the Ocean Empire to be self-sufficient for extended periods. It's a testament to human engineering and determination, pushing the boundaries of what's possible at sea, all to reach those elusive krill swarms. Finding krill in such a vast ocean isn't a simple matter of dropping a net. It's a high-tech hunt. On board the Ocean Empire, Captain Solberg's crew relies heavily on advanced sonar technology. These sophisticated systems scan the water column, detecting the telltale acoustic signatures of dense krill swarms. It's like having a giant underwater radar, painting a real-time picture of where the krill are congregating. This precision is crucial, as reports from the industry emphasize the need to efficiently target only the densest swarms, minimizing fuel consumption and optimizing catch rates in a challenging environment. This isn't guesswork, it's science. Once a swarm is located, it's time for the gear. The Ocean Empire deploys what's known as a midwater trawl net. Unlike bottom trawling, which scrapes the seabed and can damage delicate ecosystems, midwater trawls are designed to operate in the open water column, avoiding contact with the ocean floor. This specific technique is crucial for targeting krill, which often congregate in the upper layers. The net itself is colossal, engineered to be robust enough for the Southern Ocean's conditions, yet fine enough to capture the tiny krill without excessive bycatch. It's a specialized tool for a specialized job. Then comes the spectacle, the haul. Gigantic hydraulic winches roar to life, slowly but surely pulling the massive net back towards the ship. As the net emerges from the icy depths, it's not fish, but a shimmering, dense mass of pink-red krill. It's a sight that clearly illustrates the sheer abundance of these creatures when aggregated into swarms. The crew works with precision, guiding the net aboard. This is the moment when all the planning, the technology, and the endurance of the journey culminate in a tangible catch. For the ocean empire, this pink gold is their cargo, ready for the next stage of its transformation. The sheer scale of the ocean empire's operation is staggering. According to Captain Henrik Solberg himself, their vessel can haul in up to 1,000 tons of krill in a single day. That's a mind-boggling amount of biomass from the ocean, equivalent to the weight of over 10 adult blue whales. While this figure represents peak performance, it highlights the industrial capacity of these modern factory trawlers. When considering this, it's no wonder the total annual catch across the entire industry has hovered between 200,000 and 400,000 tons per year since the 1990s. This isn't small-scale fishing, it's a colossal global enterprise. Once aboard, the krill don't just sit there. The ocean empire isn't merely a fishing boat, it's a floating factory. The krill are immediately pumped from the net into the vessel's advanced processing facilities. This rapid transfer and processing is critical. Unlike fish, krill spoil very quickly due to enzymes in their bodies. Reports from the industry emphasize the need for minimal delay. Here, the krill are sorted, cleaned, and prepared for the next stage. This intricate choreography of machines and crew ensures the catch retains its quality and nutritional value, ready for its journey to global markets. It's a race against time and biology. Speed is of the essence. Following preliminary processing, the krill are quickly frozen, often flash frozen at extremely low temperatures. This rapid freezing locks in freshness and prevents degradation. The processed and frozen krill are then stored in the vessel's massive refrigerated holds, awaiting transport. The ocean empire is designed to maximize efficiency from catch to cold storage, capable of staying at sea for extended periods thanks to its integrated processing capabilities. This transformation from live organism to frozen product, all within hours of capture, is key to delivering high-quality ingredients to an eager global market. It's cold science in action. So, what happens to all this krill? Its journey doesn't end in Antarctica. From the Southern Ocean, the processed krill embarks on a global path to various industries. The primary markets are quite diverse: krill oil for human consumption, aquaculture feed for fish farms around the world, and even pet food. This broad demand explains the sheer scale of the fishing operations. It's a fascinating transformation from a tiny ocean creature into highly sought-after commercial products, fueling industries far removed from the icy Antarctic waters. This little crustacean has a surprisingly global reach. One of krill's most valuable transformations is into krill oil, a popular omega-3 supplement. Market reports suggest high-purity krill oil can fetch anywhere from $150 to $200 per kilogram. That's a serious price tag. Consumers are increasingly turning to krill oil, which is touted for its omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, and DHA, often claiming better absorption than traditional fish oil due to its phospholipid form. This demand for health supplements drives a significant portion of the krill fishing industry's profitability, making it a lucrative venture for companies like Ocean Empire. It's big business for tiny organisms. Beyond human supplements, a massive portion of the krill catch goes to fuel the global aquaculture industry. It's processed into feed for farmed fish, providing essential nutrients and pigments that contribute to the health and coloration of species like salmon. As the world's demand for seafood grows, so does the reliance on aquaculture, and consequently, the demand for high-quality feed ingredients. Krill provides a protein-rich, nutrient-dense solution, contributing to the growth of this ever-expanding sector. This link between wild Antarctic krill and your dinner plate in the form of farmed salmon is a direct, if often unseen, connection. Given krill's critical ecological role, the industry isn't unregulated. The Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, or CCAMLR, acts as the international watchdog. Established to manage fisheries in the Southern Ocean, CAMWR sets annual catch limits to ensure the conservation of Antarctic marine life. This body is crucial, as it brings together scientists and policymakers from various nations to make collective decisions on how much krill can be sustainably harvested. Their mandate is to prevent overfishing and protect the ecosystem from irreversible harm. But how effective are they really? CAMWR doesn't just set a single limit, it's quite detailed. For Krill Fishery Area 48, which encompasses the main fishing grounds, the current annual catch limit is set at 6.5 million tons. However, to prevent localized depletion, CAMWR further subdivides Area 48 into specific subareas, each with its own smaller, precautionary catch limits. Furthermore, to ensure compliance and gather data, CAMWR requires all vessels, including the Ocean Empire, to carry independent scientific observers. These observers monitor the catch, bycatch, and fishing practices, providing transparent data back to the Commission. It's an attempt at rigorous oversight. Despite CAMWR's efforts, concerns persist. Critics, including many environmental organizations and scientists, worry about localized depletion. The argument is that even with overall catch limits, fishing vessels tend to concentrate their efforts in specific areas that are easily accessible and rich in krill, precisely the same areas where whales, penguins, and seals feed. This concentration, according to these critics, could deprive predators of their vital food source, even if the overall krill population remains healthy. It's a debate between broad ecosystem management and the very real, local impacts of fishing practices. The krill might be plentiful, but not always where predators need them most. Adding another layer of complexity, and arguably a far greater threat, is climate change. Scientists universally agree that reduced sea ice in the Antarctic directly impacts krill habitat. Krill depend on sea ice for shelter and as a food source during their larval stages. Less ice means less food and protection for young krill, which could lead to significant population declines. This isn't about fishing pressure, it's a fundamental change to their environment. As the climate crisis intensifies, managing the krill fishery becomes even more challenging, attempting to balance harvest with an increasingly vulnerable ecosystem. It's a double-edged sword for the tiny crustacean. So, is the krill industry truly sustainable? That's the million-dollar question, and frankly, there's no single, easy answer. The industry, represented by operators like Captain Solberg, generally asserts that under CAMWR's management, krill fishing is sustainable, pointing to the vast biomass and precautionary catch limits. However, many scientists and conservation groups argue that current models don't adequately account for localized impacts or the synergistic effects of climate change. Both sides present compelling evidence. The truth likely lies in a complex gray area, continually evolving as more data emerges and environmental conditions shift. It's a living, breathing debate. Behind the technology and the numbers, there's the human element. Life aboard the Ocean Empire, or any factory trawler in the Southern Ocean, is incredibly demanding. Crews spend months away from home, working long shifts in harsh, isolated conditions. It's a testament to their resilience and dedication. Imagine the sheer cold, the constant movement of the ship, and the relentless nature of industrial-scale fishing. Captain Solberg leads a crew that performs vital, often unsung work, enabling the global supply chain for krill products. It's a unique blend of adventure, hardship, and high-stakes operations that few people ever experience. What does the future hold for Antarctic krill and the industry built around it? It's a complex picture. Continued scientific monitoring, improved fishing practices, and adaptive management from CCAMLR will be crucial. The challenge is immense, balancing global demand for omega-3s and aquaculture feed with the imperative to protect a foundational species in a rapidly changing ecosystem. As Captain Solberg and the Ocean Empire continue their voyages, the world watches, wondering if this delicate balance can be maintained. The fate of the Southern Ocean's incredible biodiversity, in part, hinges on the decisions made regarding this tiny, yet mighty, crustacean. So there you have it, the hidden world of Antarctic krill fishing. We've followed Captain Henrik Solberg and the Ocean Empire from the icy, remote Southern Ocean, through the high-tech hunt and industrial processing, to the global products on our shelves. We've seen the critical ecological role of krill, the massive scale of its harvest, and the intense debate surrounding its sustainability. This tiny creature, Euphausia superba, embodies a paradox, a foundational species for an entire ecosystem, yet a valuable commodity driving a global industry. It's a powerful reminder that even in the most remote corners of our planet, human impact is profound and far-reaching. What do you think? Can we truly harvest sustainably?